Reading is not supposed to feel like a chore. But for many of us, it does. You pick up a book, you get very excited, you start reading, but along the way, somewhere in the middle, or even sometimes in the beginning, you just either get bored or you just leave it behind and forget about it and then move on to the next thing. And sometimes it's not reading a book, it's maybe scrolling on your phone. The problem is not that you're not a reader, but not enough of us is talking about the mistakes that we make as readers or as we begin reading a book. And these mistakes don't make reading harder, they make the experience less enjoyable. Hi friends, my name is Mohammed and I'm a writer, and in this channel we explore tools and habits that help fit reading and writing into our busy life so that we can tell our stories, stay creative, clear-minded, and inspired. And in this video, I want to talk about the 5 reading mistakes most of us make when we approach reading. And you don't necessarily have to have all these mistakes before you fix your reading habit, but maybe you have one of them that's preventing you from reading the books that you want to read or reading more often. And let's dive in. The first mistake is forcing yourself to finish the books. And isn't that why we hated reading back in school? Because we were assigned books that we powered through based on a deadline, and we hated the experience. I have a colleague who told me used to read a lot in high school, would wake up even late to go to school because she would stay up reading books. But then when she got to graduate school, she was assigned books, and that made her hate reading, and now she stopped reading since she graduated years and years ago. And the lesson that we take from this is that we don't have to finish books that we do not like. Most of the books that we start are based on recommendation from friends, or we read an article or a review about it, and so we get excited about the topic and we start reading. This doesn't mean that we have to take it as a debt of honor for us to finish the book from beginning to end. Before, I used to have this rule where I used to tell myself, if the book doesn't excite me in the first 70 pages, I will put it down and move on to another book. Because in reality, there are so many books out there to enjoy than to limit ourselves based on forcing to finish one book that we probably not going to enjoy or learn anything from. Now, I honestly just give the book 20 to 50 pages, and if it doesn't pick up, if I'm not excited about it, I just put it down and move on to the next one, because I have a very, very long list, and I would rather come back to this one that I hated or didn't enjoy right now, a few years from now, and probably I will enjoy it, than power through it and feel pain and hate the habit and maybe finish it and have to take a break from reading. And the other part of this is asking ourselves, why are we reading? Is it for entertainment purposes? Is it because we are trying to learn a subject? Is it because we are fascinated about this particular author or the stuff that they are writing about? And I think those reasons sort of give us the fuel for us to finish the book or get excited about it, because it is an experience, and that experience has to be rewarding. Because it's not rewarding, it will not be a lifelong journey. It will just be something momentarily that will start and stop based on that particular book, and maybe that book will cause us to stop. So learn how to identify books that bore you or don't get you excited about the reading activity itself, and then drop them, move on to the next one as soon as possible without feeling guilty, because you can come back to this book, or this book might not be the book for you to read. The second mistake is treating reading like it's a race. I'm finding this a lot on social media, and I honestly fall into that trap where at the end of every year, a YouTube video will pop on my Explore page saying, reviewing the 52 books that I have read this past year. 52 books is one book a week. How? Where do you get this time? And who is allowing you to read 52 books a year? That's a crime. You can't have a job, have a family, or have anything else going on in your life if you are reading more than 10 books a year. Not 10 books, maybe 20 books a year. But 50 books is a lot of books. Where do you get that time from? For me, the only time that I have available on my day to read is when I'm on the train from work, or from home to work, and from work to home. That 1 hour commute, that 45 minutes commute was the only time that I have to read. And during those times, I read maybe 20 to 30 pages a day. And those give me enough time for me to finish maybe a book every 2 weeks, maybe every 3 weeks. Sometimes I can read one book faster than the other based on the topic, based on how excited I am about the book. But then generally speaking, I'm not reading while I'm at work from 9 to 5, and I'm also not reading while I'm at home because I have a 3-year-old and a lot of other things to do. And every time I see one of these videos or someone talks about the 50-something books that they read a year and sometimes more, I feel like maybe I'm not reading enough and I should be reading a lot more. Like, my life it's going downhill. But in reality, it's not a race. This is not a competition. No one here is keeping score on, the most books that one can read a year. And if I did not have a job, or maybe I wasn't a parent, or I wasn't married and I had a family and I had to do things at home, I would have felt guilty about it. But I'm not guilty. I shouldn't feel guilty. There's no way. Maybe I have the right to get a little jealous, just a little bit, but there's a lot going on in my life, and I think reading 20 to 30 pages a day, it's good enough for me to be proud about it. Because I remember a time where I used to read one book a week, sometimes more, because I have this habit where I used to write, or I still write, the day when I start the book on the front cover, and then on the back cover I will write when I finished it. And I can literally find books here that are 300 and more pages that I finished in 3 days. And that's because I would read during my commute back and forth from work. I would read during my lunch hour, and I would take like a 20-hour lunch and then spend 40 minutes reading. And then when I get home during my downtime before we go to sleep, I would read for another 40 minutes. And maybe that used to give me about 90 to 120 pages of reading, and that used to give me the ability to finish books a lot faster. I no longer have that time, and maybe you are in a position where you're finding yourself having less time to read, and you should not feel the pressure of spending hours of your day reading. Maybe 20 minutes is enough, even if it is 10 pages a day. If you read 10 pages a day, which is will take you 50 minutes or so, you will complete a book every single month. That's 300 pages. That's 12 more books than nothing. So focus on the time that you have available in your day that you can dedicate for reading, as opposed to comparing yourself to completing the number of books with these other people that might have a lot more time and less responsibility and less stress in their life than you do. The third mistake is reading books that you think you should read. This comes a lot from reading books that are either in the New York Times bestseller, or that are popular in a certain genre, or with a certain group of people. People recommend it to me, and I'll start reading it, and everybody swore by it, and then I hate it, and then I feel bad about it, and I think that English is still my second language, and I'm not understanding the books and giving it the value that it deserves. And in reality, that's not true. Each one of us have their own taste, and we connect with different books based on the topic, the author, the style, and those things have more value than what the market says. And I will confess to you an example of one of these books that I hated, The 100 Years of Solitude by Garcia Marquez. I thought that book was going to change my life based on the feedback that I received when I asked people what did they think about it when they read it. And when I read it, I hated it. And I didn't hate it because of the style and the writing, although it is a translated book. I couldn't understand it. There was so many characters and so many similar names and so many cross-dimensional time and everything. There was too many things going on. I didn't get to enjoy the book, and I was trying to figure out, it was like a puzzle. That's what it felt like. And I literally read it from cover to cover, and I can't tell you what the name of the main character is. But I've also found myself recommending books that other people found boring. I love Russian literature. I'm talking about Chekhov, Gogol, Tolstoy. All of these Russian literature translated books I enjoy immensely. And I think it's because they talk about morality a lot, and politics and friendship and all of these like old topics, if you will, and I enjoy that because I write stuff like that. I'm not as good as them, but then this is the type of thing I enjoy. And when I recommend these books to friends, they find them boring and they can't get through them. So the point here is not to be deceived by the market or the recommendation of other people, is to find the sort of authors, styles, topics that we connect with, because we want this to be a lifelong journey. The closer that we get to reading the books that we enjoy, the more reading that we will get done, and the longer we will stay as readers. The mistake number 4 is not having consistent time and place for you to read. And this doesn't mean that you have to have a room for you dedicated for your reading sessions or a special couch, although these things help your brain just build a trigger for you to start reading. But the moral of the story here is to find a pocket of time and a place for you to read without distractions. I mean, we live in a world where we are constantly distracted by our phones, by things that are happening on the TV, on our computers, and everything has a notification embedded to it. Companies are paying millions and millions of dollars for this asset or for this commodity called attention. And if we do not protect it, we will never be able to forget reading, but be present in our life and experience our surroundings. Like I said before, during this phase of my life and for the past 3 years, the only time that I can read is during my commute, and that's a protected time. I'm also underground when I'm on the train, so my phone doesn't even have service or connection, so I'm focused, I'm reading, I'm locked in. So if you have kids at home, the best time to read is when they are in school, right before, maybe before you start cooking or start cleaning or doing your house chores, or right after, before they come to school, right before bed when everybody is asleep. Tim Ferriss, the author of the 4-Hour Workweek, says he can write or do his thing, his protected thing, when his social circle is asleep. So that's early morning or later at night. And we have these pocket of times, and a lot of the time these pockets or these valuable short amount of time we gets consumed by social media and other things, because we do need to wind down and just, you know, not think. And reading can be replaced by social media if we just value it enough. So if you can do it every day, same time, same place, it will be easier for you to do it as consistently as possible. Now, it gets challenging when your days vary in terms of behavior, in terms of order, but then still, as much as possible, find that pocket, protect it by all means, even if you have to turn off your phone. Sometimes we are afraid to get disconnected from our phones. Get disconnected for 20 minutes, it will not hurt you. You will not miss much. Mistake number 5 is neglecting to engage with the books that we read. And this is more of to sustain the habit than to start it. After you start the habit and it's built in, to sustain it, the more you engage with the books, the more notes that you take on the margins, the more you talk about them with friends, is the more you will enjoy the reading itself. And also the deeper understanding you will get of the book and the more things that you will learn from it. And this is the point of reading. Reading a book is like having a conversation with someone else without the boundary of time or place. I mean, these are projects that people spend years working on, thinking about, refining and editing some more, so that you can have the luxury of sitting down years, sometimes later, maybe even days later after it gets published, and read through all of the time that they worked on this topic, researched it and talked about it and worked on it. And so they wrote it with the hope of clarity, and then you come in and you impose all your biases and experience and life and the country that you come from and everything else, and you get to reshape this book or this text based on your own life experience. And I think that's what's amazing about books, is that you get to make them your own. The author no longer has a hand on what they are after they leave their desk. It's not like movies where they tell you how things look and what things say and everything else. It's like they're holding your hand every step of the way. A book is not like that. A book is something that it's more dynamic. It has its own shape, not only for the author, but for everybody who's reading them. And I can experience one book one way, and you can read the same exact book. Just because you are from a different place and your people have different experience, you will read it another way. So while reading a book, take notes, talk about it, think about it, engage with it as much as possible in the way that you think will increase your sort of understanding or deeper connection with the book itself, because it will help in the long run for you to just enjoy the experience itself, because our brains are wired based on a reward system. So the more reward they feel from a certain activity is the more they are able or drive you to get back to the activity more. I think these are the top mistakes that I have found myself fall into and see other people fall into when it comes to reading, and I hope one of them will help you overcome whatever that you are facing in your reading journey. I hope you are able to get back to reading books or able to continue reading for the longer run, for life. And I can't help but think about the quote that Naval Ravikant says, "Read what you love until you love reading." And I think that defines what reading really is as a habit, is that you just read and then you find stuff that you love, and the more you read stuff that you love, the more reading that you will do. I would love to know why you are struggling with your reading journey, or what are the mistakes that you made early on and overcame it, and what are the things that you did to overcome it. Let me know in the comment section. And if you want to know what I'm currently reading, then sign up to my newsletter, where I send a weekly reflection on reading, writing, and life in general, and I also share the books that I'm currently reading. And if you enjoyed this video, then you will surely enjoy my video on the 5 books that will make you fall in love with reading again. These are books that I find myself recommending the most for people who wants to start reading or restart their reading journey, and I hope one of them can give you that jolt or that fuel to get back to the habit. Find it here, and in the meantime, keep reading, and thank you for watching.